there's two types of people. There's the type of person who wants to talk about how easy it was for them, and there's the type of person who wants to talk about, and I don't want to say celebrate, but is open about how challenging it was for them.
And you really do mean it. And you're not just saying it, but you actually want to go and achieve those things, and you might want to build a business, and you might want to quit your 9-to-5, whatever it is. It is going to be so unreasonably challenging.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode, number 1111, Staying Committed When Times Get Rough. Today, for episode number 1112, happy Sunday, the number one life lesson we're learning right now. I figured it's been a long time, so it won't necessarily be a growing pains episode, even though I'm sure it probably will be in some way, shape, or form. But I think that oftentimes we're talking about specific topics or specific stories or specific things that we've learned, and we don't always stop and say, okay, well, what's the number one thing I've learned? Not what's the number one story that stands out, not what is my favorite thing to talk about this week? What's the number one lesson I have learned as a human being? And I think one of the reasons this topic jumped to me is because when I do, so we have a private Facebook group called Next Level Nation. Every week we do what we call an NLYOU, where I talk to somebody from the community in this private Facebook group. And one of the questions I'll ask is, what is the number one lesson you've learned recently? And in asking that, it forces somebody to take a look in the mirror and be retrospective and say, maybe I haven't thought of that. What's the number one lesson I've learned? So I would say for me, the number one lesson I have learned recently is not everybody is what they say they are. I really think that's unfortunately been the painful lesson that I've learned. And I don't think it just happened recently. I think it's kind of come to a head recently. A lot of people have asked why we don't have guests anymore. And I love the guests we've had. Many of the guests we've had are our friends, and they're people who have coached us and mentored us, and we've had listeners on, and it's been wonderful. Members of the team have come on in the past. And I always tell people when they ask me, whether it's on another show or it's behind the scenes, I say, honestly, too many times we've done an interview where it was very clear that the person was not who they said they were. Whether it was something they said during the interview, something they said before the interview, something they said after the interview, it was very clear that these people are just kind of playing a part in their life. And it's very challenging. It's a very challenging realization to have. And I think it's one of those things too I told Alan this today. I said, I hated Gary Vee in the beginning of this journey. Then I really loved Gary. And then I was kind of indifferent. And I've come back to understanding that when it comes to this industry, I think Gary is telling more of the truth than anybody else. I really, really do. I went on a show and I don't mean this with any negativity, but it was an interesting position to put me in that I didn't know was going to happen. I was being interviewed on a show. And the person said, well, the name of this episode is Getting to the Next Level Without Struggle. How does somebody do that? And in real time, I had to sift through my own thoughts and say, well, I don't believe that's possible. I don't really believe you can get to the next level without struggle. I think that's the realization I'm having is, we can help you succeed faster. We can help you succeed with less roadblocks or maybe less pain because we can help you raise your awareness of something. But there has to be struggle. There just does. Either you have struggle that you choose or you have struggle that you don't choose. I think that's the only two. I really, really, really think that's the only two options you have. So it's like, pardon the analogy, it's the first one that came to me. I always thought when I saw Titanic, when I saw that movie for the first time, and the boat, it's just straight up in the air and it's sinking, and they're on the back of the boat. You have two options. One, you jump into the water before the boat goes all the way down. Two, you stay on the boat to the very last minute. Either one, you're choosing, how do I want to suffer? Do I want to jump in the water now and like go find a raft, or do I want to try to get into a raft? Or am I going to ride this thing out for as long as humanly possible so I can stay dry for as long as humanly possible? And I know that's kind of a brash example, but I think that it's one of those things where I'm seeing a lot of people that are our age, and this is going to be like the realest shit in this episode, I can already tell. And you and I are like out here grinding and building this business, and I love that. But everybody else is kind of like settling into their life. And I'm grateful for them, and I hope they find the happiness that they want. But what I realize is all of the struggle and the suffer and the sacrifices that we've made 10, 15, 20 years from now, it's going to be like, it'll be very different. We'll have very different lives than most of the people we know. And I think what I want for you as a listener is for you to understand that a lot of people probably look like they're winning right now, but it doesn't mean they actually are winning. You could be building something behind the scenes that nobody's going to see for the next 5 or 10 years. Well, everybody else has the other things, the other markers of success. So I don't know. I think that's what the number one lesson for me is, I go back to this. I said this recently. There's two types of people. There's the type of person who wants to talk about how easy it was for them. And there's the type of person who wants to talk about, and I don't want to say celebrate, but is open about how challenging it was for them. And I think that we're very accurate with that. And I'm proud of that. I'm very proud of the way we explain it. You know, I don't want to say, I don't think you want a life of ease. I don't think a life of ease leads to a life of greatness. I don't think a life of ease leads to a life of fulfillment. I don't think a life of ease leads to a life of contribution. I don't. I can't believe in that. That's not my belief. And I think that's a lot of what's out there right now. And I don't want you to fall into the trap. Last thing I'll say, we were on a team call and Alan and I were down a little bit. It's been a heavy month. Alan, it's been a heavier month for you than I, but I know I tend to feel what you're feeling. We're business partners. We talk every day. So, and a couple members of the team said, well, you know, we've listened to this podcast and this podcast and this podcast, and what you guys are doing different. And I told Alan that recently. And I said a lot of places are more focused on two things. They're more focused on marketing than they are value. And they're more focused on making their community feel better than getting better. And that really hit me because I think that one of the reasons we haven't grown as quickly as we had hoped is because I think we give more feedback. Even in this episode, the fact that I just said a lot of people around our age are like starting to settle down, and it looks like they're living a life of happiness where in 5 to 10 years, the truth will show. And maybe the truth is that they're very happy and fulfilled. I hope they are. But I know people that aren't. I know people that aren't now, and most likely it's not trending upward. It's not trending upward. The fact that I'm willing to say that, number one, scares me because I don't want to be disliked for that. But number two, I think it's also important for you to realize it because maybe you've thought that too about people around you and you were afraid to think it, say it, communicate it. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of a rambling of a confused man, I think, but I would say those are the top few lessons I'm learning right now.
Definitely a hyper-conscious episode.
Very very heavy. My apologies for the heaviness, but I don't know. Heart-driven, when we say heart-driven but no BS, it's like heart-driven from the aspect of this is genuinely how I feel. Like I feel like we have a responsibility to tell the truth. I really do.
Same.
I really do. And that's par for the course for us is I'd rather fail telling the truth than succeed not telling the truth. Right? And sometimes that's hard. Same.
Heart-driven, but no BS. I told you this recently, Kev. I said this somewhere along the lines. I just decided within myself. This is recent, and I'm really grateful for this. Somewhere along the lines, I just decided that I want to help people think as accurately as they possibly can about themselves, about the world, about how it works, about why it works that way. And my goal in life has always been to think as accurately as possible. about myself, about the world. And I'm not always perfect on that, not even close. But I do think that there's a great book called Think Again. And it talks about how the people who are constantly excited when they're wrong, not excited because it doesn't feel good to be wrong. It feels terrible, actually. But like not excited from the point of like, oh, I feel so good that I was wrong. No, but like excited to learn. Excited to realize, okay, so that's what I thought was true. It turns out that was a little bit inaccurate. And we've talked a lot about an optimal stopping problem. An optimal stopping problem is very, very simple. It's Goldilocks. This porridge is too hot. This porridge is too cold. This porridge is too big. This porridge is too small. And an optimal stopping problem is essentially a drive to 5 that we talk about on the show constantly if you're a new listener. Drive to 5 is imagine someone just saying, grind, grind, grind. All you should ever do is grind. Grind is the only way that you'll ever achieve anything. That's too far to the right side. Now imagine the other side, the other extreme of like, just lean into the power of ease. You don't have to be uncomfortable. Just make sure you're aligned and it's all going to work out. Neither one of those is true. Neither one of those is accurate. That's the lesson that I'm learning. When you opened this episode and you said, what's the number one lesson we're learning right now? My brain had two things. One that I wanted to bring up, which was essentially that being optimistic about your own future can be really painful. And I understand why most people aren't. Because it's easier to say, it's not going to work out, I might as well not even try. Because you just avoid a lot of mirrors. You avoid a lot of growth. You avoid a lot of feedback. Versus Tucker is really barking a lot right now. So if you can hear that, I apologize. So one lesson that I'm going through right now is that being extremely optimistic about your own capabilities is what's best for you, but it is going to be very painful and very challenging. And the second thing that came up, and this was actually the more prevalent one, life is challenging. Life is very, very difficult. And that doesn't mean it always is difficult. That doesn't mean it always has to be difficult. That doesn't mean it's not a blanket statement of life is always going to suck or anything like that. But if you think about this for a second, and we talk a little philosophically on this podcast, imagine someone who believes that life is easy. They are in for a very, very rude awakening if they set huge goals. If they want to maximize their potential and they want to set really big goals and they want to grow and scale a global podcast, no way. With the belief that life is easy and that it's going to be easy, and no, you can't imagine someone who has a belief that life is easy and that life should be easy. You can't imagine them having a deeply fulfilling, deeply meaningful life that is filled with tons of growth and contribution and profitability. Okay, so that's one end. Now let's go to the other end. Life is really challenging. Life is difficult. There are good days and bad days, but holistically speaking, life is really challenging. The reason why I choose that side is because I think it's more accurate. I think it's more accurate. I would rather, and I think here's why. If you are a dream chaser, remember holistic self-improvement for dream chasers, health, wealth, life, and love. If you do set big goals, if you're listening or watching this right now and you have big goals and you really do want the body of your dreams and you really do want the relationship of your dreams and you really do want a dream home on the beach and you really do mean it, and you're not just saying it, but you actually want to go and achieve those things, and you might want to build a business, and you might want to quit your 9-to-5, whatever it is going to be so unreasonably challenging. And that is a fact. And if anyone can come to me and say they grew and scaled a global $1 million business and have a dream home on the beach, and that it was super easy, then egg on my face, I'm sorry. Please email me. Please message me. My bad. It's not real. It's not true. There's a reason why not everyone has a beautiful mansion on the beach. Think about that. Why everyone wants one. Can you name a single person who doesn't want a mansion on the beach? No. Why does almost no one have those things? Because it's ridiculously challenging. Not everyone can go to the NFL. Not everyone can play in the NBA. Not everyone can achieve the life of their dreams with ease. So if you have to choose a path, I hope our listeners come with us and choose the path of challenge, but deeply meaningful growth. And so, yeah, the people that talk about things being easy or maybe have a belief that life is easy, I think a lot of them are feeling good in the short term at the expense of their best future, at the expense of that home on the beach. Because I think that life is really challenging when you have really, really big goals. And I think for some people, life is challenging even without big goals. I know my childhood certainly was. But yeah, that's the lesson I'm learning right now is that Kev and I, well, always want to be honest with our listeners. We shot very high in 2022. You know, we shot very high in terms of our goals, listener goals, listen goals, team goals, department goals, profitability goals, revenue goals. We shot very, very high. And I would rather shoot high and miss a little bit and still maximize our potential than shoot low and hit. And if you're going to shoot high, you're going to miss. But at least you're going to see what you're capable of. And I think that's what matters. So that's the lesson I'm going through and growing through right now. And it doesn't mean we're giving up. It doesn't mean we're not going to get better and more accurate in our thinking. But at the end of the day, optimism can be painful because when you think things are possible, it requires a lot of you. And trust me, there's some humble pie in there for you. And the second thing is life is challenging. And embracing that fact is going to create a more meaningful, effective life.
One of the questions we get asked most often is, what is my purpose and how do I figure out what I really want to do with my life?
And even if you're one of the few who do know what you really want, you might not know the steps to accomplish it, or even worse, you might not believe you can.
There's a bunch of people and programs out there that are trying to show you the easiest way, but not necessarily the best way for you.
Next Level Group Coaching is not only a place where you will understand yourself at a deeper level, but you'll also understand how everything you're learning applies specifically to you, to your life, and to your goals.
The Next Level You family is built on understanding, inclusiveness, and creating a supportive environment where you can always be your authentic self.
Many programs like this are literally thousands of dollars. Ours is not only more affordable than that, but with our 6-month payment plan, it's less than $100 per month.
And by the end of the first call, you'll have definite, clear, and specific goals. And by the end of the program, you'll have the exact daily steps to accomplish them or your money back.
At this point, our group coaching program has graduated dozens of people from all over the world. We only take 10 at a time, and honestly, we cannot guarantee the price will stay the same for future groups.
Now, there are a ton of reasons you should do this now, but the biggest one is that the version of you you're working so hard on becoming is waiting. I really believe that hard work doing what you love is the ultimate. Because if you love something so much, why wouldn't you want to work hard at it? You know what I mean?
Fact.
Like that's a good perspective for me, and I'll use that more.
As long as you define love properly.
Yeah, fair. But like I think about my relationship. It's like I love my relationship and I love Taryn. Why am I going to say it should be, and I know I said this recently, but like it should be easy? I won't accept it if it's hard. And then what? So I'll go find another relationship, and then when that's not easy, I'll be like, oh, okay, it must be this person again. Like, let me go find another person. No, I just think that's kind of the law of the universe. There will be some sort of challenges.
Of course.
There has to be some sort of challenges.
And a lot of people spend their life doing what you just said.
I think
because it's like, oh, this must not be the one. This must not be the one. What if you just have a misbelief about what the one means?
You know what? The other lesson I have, I think I'm learning. I was on a show today, and they were asking me a lot about like how did you grow the podcast? And they were asking me all these questions. And I realized in somewhat real time that when it comes to success, I think one of the reasons people aren't more successful is because they don't study themselves. I really believe that, because it was very much, It's in my bio. It says the thing that changed the most was me. The thing that I've worked on the most was me. It was learning about me and unlearning the things that were holding me back. And it's very hard to dive into what that actually means because for me, it's obviously very specific and unique to my own experiences. But that, like, I don't know. I thought I was going to learn a lot more from books and other people. And I have. I've learned a lot. But I think the thing that unlocking was most important was myself.
Give me an example.
I don't know if I can.
Well, I'll give a very common one.
Please.
Real quick. Because I agree. And again, what you're talking about is essentially the character
Cat hairs
underneath goals. And so, for example, I do quantum goal setting with people. It's an article that you've probably heard about because I keep talking about it on the podcast.
Son.
LinkedIn article, if you want to check it out, it'll be a link in the show notes. But essentially what it is here's the results goal that you want, and then let's go to the character goals and the inner circle goals and the mastery goals and the process goals and the contribution goals and the mentor goals underneath that results goal. And if those first 6 aren't in alignment, you don't get the 7th, essentially. And I was on the phone recently with a client, and we were going through this exercise. And we have the 3 results goals. And one of them is get a new nursing job. One of them is lose 7 pounds in the next 3 months. And one of them is, I forget the third one. I'll make a new friend. This person had just moved to a new place. And first of all, the new nursing job would probably take care of the third one. But when we got to character goals, she's very honest with me. It was awesome. She was like, oh, yeah. Okay, so get a nursing job. Okay, I need to be more consistent. I said, okay, why aren't you consistent? She said, oh, it's just a lack of self-discipline. And I was like, okay, perfect. The goal you want is to get a new nursing job. Okay, why aren't you applying? Oh, I'm just really not, I don't have a lot of self-discipline. Okay, let's go to work on that. I think that's what you mean. You can't imagine someone achieving like massive results without self-discipline. It's like not a thing, right? At least in that narrow area, right? So I think that what you're trying to say, Kev, is this journey has taught you a lot about yourself because that's what needs to change. Yeah. That's always what needs to change. Even today, talking about what we're talking about regarding the optimism, the inaccurate thinking, and the life is challenging but deeply meaningful. You and I were talking about some of the challenges we've faced recently. It's not like, I mean, the people who need to change are you and I. We need to change our thinking. We need to change our behavior. We need to change your peak performance tracker. We need to change the way we lead. We need to change the way we operate. We need to change some of the goals we've set for the next decade. And I think that we are the ones who need to change because we are the root cause of our current results. And I think that one of the reasons, and this will be the last thing I say before I kick it to you, one of the reasons why I think our podcast has not maybe grown as much as some podcasts with the same level of consistency, I think that we are big on ownership. I think we take a lot of responsibility. And this is not my words. This is someone else who said this to me behind the scenes. Because I was asking, like, why do you think this is happening? Why do you think that some people, to your story about the team members who used to listen to those other shows and realize that we're doing something differently? Well, some of those other shows are very empowering and positive, but maybe a little less truthful, I think.
Yeah, I would say.
And I actually listened to one of them earlier, by the way, just because I'm going through it right now and I want to see the difference. It's very performy and it's very fluffy and it's very, I would say a lot of it is inaccurate based on what really did create the results. And I won't name any names, I'll keep it anonymous. But this person behind the scenes said, one of the reasons why I think you two are doing it different is because you take so much ownership. There's so much responsibility. Like, she told me this is her word. She said, most people go through life thinking that most of this stuff is someone else's responsibility or someone else's fault. You guys everything's kind of your fault. So it's like not as comfortable. You know, it's like Kevin and I are not succeeding because of someone else. Yep. It's because we're not we need to think more accurately. We need to be more effective. We need to, work on ourselves. We need to be more disciplined. We need to be more consistent. We need to, and this person said, that's just a really big mirror. It's not easy for everybody to look in the mirror and go, my life has turned out this way because of my own choices.
Mm.
And that doesn't mean all of it. I don't want everyone to take over ownership, but like, it is your responsibility to do something about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking I think that's one of the things is like you can listen to a show. I think we go deeper. I think that's kind of like we talk about breadth. Breadth is the amount of people you can help. Depth is the level at which you can help them. I think even on the podcast, we're focused on depth. Like getting down to like deeper, deeper, deeper. And I think that, it's interesting. You got to be really committed to listen to us. I think that's what it is. Like there's the people who say I'm into self-improvement. It's like, all right, what book are you reading? It's like, well, I'm not really reading a book, but like I want to get better. And I'm nothing against that. But then you come here and it's like, what are you messing up though? I think I really think that's kind of what it is some of these other self-improvement podcasts, they're categorized as self-improvement, but I think it's more feel good than improve self. And honestly, there's a place for that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but what I am saying
can be where you start.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's more digestible. I think it's more.
But you also got to graduate from third grade every now and then. You know what I mean? I'm joking.
Oh, shots fired. Shots fired.
No, of course.
You can tell Alan and I are. This is a growing pains episode, but we haven't done one of these in a long time, and I think it's interesting to talk about. I don't know. I feel safe to talk about it. Obviously, I get nervous. It's like I hope nobody takes that the wrong way, and I hope at this point everybody realizes that everything we say is with the ultimate goal of helping. But I just want to tell the truth. I want people to, I don't know. I think my ultimate goal is to raise people's awarenesses. I really think I'm back to that. That's why I started this in the first place. Really. I started this so people would ask why. And I always start my speech. My goal is not to change your life with this speech. My goal is to get you to think one new thought, ask one new question, or give yourself one new answer. And if I did that, that's my goal. That's my ultimate goal. So that stands true here. Anything in closing, Jeff? We got to
go. Kevin and I care more. We care so much about you as a listener that we would rather say something that might not feel comfortable or good, but we care more about you actually getting better, and we care about your self-improvement more than feeling good. And I think that ultimately, when you focus on your true self-improvement in your real life, you ultimately will feel more fulfilled, which is what we're going for. We're going for fulfillment over short-term pleasure, and I think that that's indicative of this show. So if you're a listener to this show, thank you so much for sticking with us. I know this journey has been hard. It is the harder path. It's a lot more difficult of a path, but it is deeply meaningful, and thank you for joining us.
Next Level Nation, if you are listening to this, it is Sunday. You are maybe getting ready for your week. Maybe you're folding your clothes. Maybe you're prepping your meals. Maybe you're cleaning the house. Whatever it is that you do on Sunday. Our 8th round of group coaching is starting on Tuesday. And this is what I will tell you. And this is what I've been telling people when I tell them about group coaching. You're going to learn a ton about yourself. Yeah, there's a workbook and you're going to be on the app and there's 9 other people who are going to be doing this and there's a private WhatsApp group. But you know what's going to happen? You're going to log in, you're going to log on, you're going to see Alan and I, and we are going to teach you about yourself, and you're going to understand yourself at a deeper level. And while that's very hard to quantify, and it's very hard to say, these are the results you're going to get, I guarantee you will understand yourself at a deeper level. And I believe when you understand yourself at a deeper level, you can understand everything else at a deeper level. So you'll have clear, specific goals that we will help you design, and then we'll help you figure out what are the habits you should be doing every day to get those, and you'll have an amazing group of people in your corner. That is what group coaching is in a nutshell, and I believe you would benefit from it greatly. That is my truth.
Achieve more in 90 days than you ever have. That's the goal with that program. Nothing short of that. The thing that I was going to plug, for lack of better phrasing, is I already did quantum goal setting. If you can't afford group coaching right now, in group coaching, we're going to take you through not quantum goal setting, but our own version of it. If you can't afford group coaching right now, check out that article at least. That article is the first article I've ever created that I think is at the level of some of my favorite books, like The Compound Effect or Atomic Habits. Some of the most valuable books I've ever read, I feel like that article is on par with. So I know it will change your life. The link will be in the show notes. Check it out, and it should take you no more than maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Next Level Nation tomorrow for episode number 1113. This is going to be an interesting one. I'm excited about this one. Can people talking about you behind your back actually be a good thing? Got a couple stories about that one. So I'm very excited about that one. As always, and to Alan's point, thank you again for this, for being part of the NLU family. So many, I talked to somebody literally today or yesterday that listened to our very first episode and still is like part of the community. It's wild to me. So
I know who that is. Thank you, that person. Yeah.
We appreciate you all so much. And that's the one thing I can promise you is we're always going to do what's best for you. People ask me all the time, like, how do you guys make money? You do sponsorships? And I say, no, we'll never do sponsorships. We will never, I cannot see a time where we will ever do sponsorships or affiliates or ads. I cannot see a time where that will ever happen because it's not what's best for you. That's just the thing. It's like, yeah, we're leaving money on the table every episode, but I don't, that's not the main thing. So I'm just grateful, very grateful for this community. I really believe we have the best community in the world, and Alan and I will never, ever, ever stop continuing this journey and guiding and leading and supporting and whatever it looks like. So as always, at NLU, we do not have fans, we have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Hope you reach out.